Over the years in this country, till today, the press has been attacked continuously.
This is our camera crew being arrested.
Every journalistic institution of any note has been attacked.
Why am I under arrest, sir?
When the United States doesn't stand up for press freedom,
you are the enemy of the people.
That has an impact on freedom throughout the world. I started my career as a top editor at the Miami Herald in 2000. Then in the summer of 2001, I went to Boston. I became the top editor of the Boston Globe. About a day before I started my work at the Boston Globe, I had read a column by a Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist at the Globe, and she talked about the case of a priest who had been accused of abusing as many as 80 kids. And at the end of the column, she said, "The truth may never be known." And when somebody says, "The truth may never be known," to me, that should be an incentive for journalists to try to find the truth.
Marty was a breath of fresh air. He came from the outside. When he asked the Spotlight team to investigate the Catholic Church, he basically turned me loose on a very difficult and complicated story.
A lot of people without power have very powerful things to say. These were people who had been abused, who had not been listened to for years and years and years. And when we did, there was enormous power in that.
The stakes were extremely high. The Catholic Church in Boston was all powerful. And I think it's very rare to have an editor who's willing to pay whatever price it takes to get the truth. This critically important story that has helped tens of thousands of people, rattled an institution, none of this would have happened without Marty Baron.
On behalf of the bishops and the entire church in the United States, I restate and reaffirm our apologies to all of you.
Breaking news this evening is the identity of the man who sent the Obama administration into defend and explain mode this week. His name is Edward Snowden. Today he came out as the leaker of classified NSA documents that spell out a secret surveillance program.
It's hard to really capture how enormous the story was when that landed.
The programs were essentially vacuuming up an enormous amount of information, private information about American citizens, and something that the intelligence agencies were determined to keep secret.
The more we learned about the material, the more we thought we should publish.
There was enormous pressure not to publish, and he made some very tough decisions in the process of that investigation. What really distinguishes Marty's career is his willingness to look squarely at institutions that had not come under scrutiny in the past and subject them to questions in the public interest that show no fear about going places that others are unwilling to go.
People are entitled to their privacy, particularly in a democracy. I think we see today that when you have a government that has authoritarian inclinations, there's a great potential for abuse of the information that's within its power. You know, all of us have rights here in the United States. They're all built into the Bill of Rights. But those rights are completely meaningless unless we exercise those rights.
There was no story that he did not want us to pursue. Having an editor with that sort of moral clarity at the helm just makes all the difference in the world.
You need fighters and champions, and he's one of the top champions.
We've overcome an enormous number of difficulties for the press and for free expression in this country. All of us as journalists should think back to what our mission is. We should think about the founders of this country and why they wrote the First Amendment. We need to look beneath the surface and behind the curtain. That is the original assignment given to us in the press by the founders of this country. And whenever we have doubts about what we should do, we should think back to that.